Good day, everyone. So for today, I will be discussing the third class of nutrient, which are the lipids. Okay, so going back noon sa discussion ko, so what are lipids? So pag sinabi natin na lipids, of course, ito yung mga organic compounds na nakikita natin sa mga plant and animal tissues. And usually, pag sinabi natin na lipids, kung titingnan ninyo tong picture na to, they are oily or they are greasy substances that are usually soluble sa mga organic solvents natin such as yung mga sinabi ko noon, we have the benzene, the ether, tsaka yung chloroform. So, meaning to say, pag sinabi natin na they are organic compounds that are found doon sa mga plants natin. So we have yung example natin last time, we have yung vegetable oils. And then pag sa mga animal origin naman natin, yung mga usual na common sources no ng lipids natin ay we can have at the meat, we can have at the milk kasi syempre sa milk meron din naman yang fat content, okay? And then of course with the egg. Okay? So, aside from that one, etong mga lipids na to, they are also electron carriers doon sa enzymatic reactions. Okay? They act as electron carriers in enzymatic reactions as component ng biological membranes, and usually yung pinaka number one na reason din is they are being stored as energy. So you know already yung concept behind that one kung papaano na-store or papaano ma-store yung fats as energy and how they will be used later on. Okay? So as the chemical structure, no, as the chemical structure of the lipids, we can have just like doon sa proteins noon, we have CHO tsaka N. So dito naman sa lipids, so merong carbon, hydrogen tsaka oxygen na molecule. So i-reiterate ko lang, ang carbon is 77%, yung hydrogen is 12%, and then yung oxygen that is 11%. And in other lipids, no, just like doon sa mga proteins ninyo noon na meron din akong in-incorporate not only the CHO and N, pero meron ding other atomic molecules. So dito din sa lipids, aside from CH and O, meron ding nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay. Now, we can see that lipids, so these include fats, waxes, glycolipids, phospholipids, steroids, and then prostaglandins. So, ang fats natin, okay, etong fats natin or what we call as the triglycerides, from the standpoint no of the amounts present in the animal body and doon sa food mismo, usually etong mga fats na to, by the way, this is a correction, no? Ang fats na to, this is a composition ng lipids. Okay? Dun ninyo i-correct to. Ang fats that is composition of lipids wherein yung fats mismo, they make up the largest fraction ng lipids mismo. So just jot it down that it's about 98% of the lipids present in most concentrate feedstuffs are usually fats. Okay? So, etong mga prostaglandins, I have already discussed this one. These are hormone-like substances. So, unlike yung mga hormones, etong mga prostaglandins, they are not released from a specific gland. So, instead, yung mismong katawan ng animal, meron siyang number of tissues that can make prostaglandins. So that is a comparison between prostaglandin and with other hormones present or na nare-release doon sa body ng animal. Okay? So fats are by far the most important lipids based on amounts present in the animal's body and its food, but others also play significant roles in nutrition and physiology. So dito napapasok yung sinasabi ko sa inyo noon that fats are the primary storage of energy. And yung sinasabi ko din na they serve as an animal's body's savings account. So They are being called as savings accounts since they are characterized by their high energy value. So I have used as an example that time is yung back fat thickness or yung back fat mismo ng mga baboy. So those are triglycerides. And then of course yung mga abdominal fats, no? Yung yellowish na fat doon sa abdomen ng chicken. So those are examples of fats. Now, eto naman yung mga compositions or kailangan in the diet for non-ruminant species. So, I have already discussed this one last time. So, just jot it down na lang for this part. Now, going back again, why is it necessary to add fats to animal diet? So, if we try to look at it, no, if we try to look at it in the nutritional side, so nutritionally speaking, etong mga fats, they are excellent sources of energy and they are essential to the survival of the animals. They are not the only source, no? So they are the only source of essential fatty acids. So pag sinabi natin na essential fatty acids, just like the same with the concept, no, ng essential amino acids, ganun lang din. Itong mga essential fatty acids, those are fatty acids that cannot uh, be made by the body of the animals or that cannot be synthesized by the body of the animals. That is why we need to supplement, we need to add to their diet. Okay? Yun yung difference ng essential fatty acids. So, very important ito. This is the most important role ng dietary fat. Yung pag-provide or pag-provide ng source ng essential fatty acids. So, parang concept lang din dito, as the fat content, no, as the fat content of the animal's diet usually increases, yung energy density ng diet also goes up. Yun yung isang concept niyan. Okay? So ano pa? Why is it necessary to add fats to animal's diet? So kung titingnan natin yung physical characteristic, no, ng isang feed mismo, yung pag-add mo ng fat doon is associated already with the improvement ng quality ng feed na ibibigay mo. Okay? So of course, kung medyo dusty yung feeds mo, so if you will supplement or if you will add fats doon, so there will be a reduction ng dust doon sa feed. And of course, there will be a reduction also ng feed particle separation during processing. Pero take note of this na of course, we need to follow kung ano yung recommended na fat inclusion doon sa isang feed. Kasi ang mangyayari dyan, although na-reduce niya, okay, talagang na-reduce niya yung dust mismo, yung feed particle, pero if nasobrahan mo naman, no? If nasobrahan mo naman ng fat yung mismong ibinigay mo na feed, then that will cause clogging. Okay, mag-clog yan. Pag lalong-lalo na if syempre ang mga feeds natin ngayon, they are manufactured sa mga facilities. So maraming machineries doon. So if binigyan mo ng mataas na fat content yung mismong diet or yung mismong feed na minamanufacture mo, so that will cause now yung clogging, kay magbubuo-buo. And that is not a standard quality for a feed. And of course, we can also correlate doon sa rancidity. Okay? I will try to discuss that one kung ano yung rancidity. Although I have already discussed that one during the introduction part kung ano yung rancidity. Then another one, increase palatability. So of course, pag binigyan mo daw ng fat yung mismong diet ng animal, yung mismong feed na ibibigay mo, it would be palatable. So ini-improve niya yung palatability ng feed. Then of course, in that case, then yung feed digestibility will be increased also. So mas gaganahan yung animal na kakain. And then in that way, then ano yung magiging consequence? Of course, there will be a significant weight gain. And pag binigyan mo ng fat also, then it will increase yung digestive lubrication. So hindi masyadong mahihirapan yung animal in digesting yung mga solid particles. Okay, so we recall yung mga functions ng fat natin. So first one or pinaka main function, no? Take note of this that with all of these functions that I have listed here, etong number one yung pinaka main na function ng fat. So this is to supply energy. So in every 1 gram ng fat, no, after a complete oxidation usually produces 9.3 kcal heat. That is yung for fat. And compared sa 3.7 na kcal only for carbohydrates. So parang in every 1 gram down ng carbohydrates, it will usually provide 3.7 kcal heat lang. So that is why doon papasok yung mismong concept kung bakit sinasabi natin na fats usually provide 2.25 times more energy compared sa carbohydrates and protein. So dito na, kung titignan ninyo, 1 gram of fat, 9.3 na kcal na already yung binibigay niya when we compare it sa 3.7 lang sa carbohydrates. Wherein, bakit carbohydrates yung binigay ko na example is because si carbohydrates yung pinaka-major source ng energy ng animals natin. Okay? So always take note on that one, yung mga numerical values natin. Sa fats natin, 2.25. It's because they provide 2.25 times more energy compared doon sa two classes of nutrients. Iba naman yung 6.25 sa protein. So that is for the conversion ratio for the crude protein content ng mga non-protein yung mga NPN natin, yung mga non-protein nitrogenous compounds natin. Okay? So they serve as a reserved source of energy to the animal's body, etong mga fats natin. So in that case, it usually delays yung sensation ng hunger. So parang since it requires a longer period ng time to pass through the stomach when we compare it sa carbohydrates and proteins. And this is the main reason also kung bakit sabi nila if medyo chubby yung isang tao or if medyo chubby yung isang animal, if there is a famine, no? Pag hindi mo or kumbaga walang pagkain, ang usual na ginagamit ng mga animals natin is yung fats nila. So parang kumbaga if walang pagkain yung tao, pwedeng yun yung magiging gagamitin niya muna as energy. So ang major form that one is yung mga ketone bodies. Yun yung gagamitin and then it will be oxidized and that will be used as a source of energy. Okay? And then number 2, provision of essential fatty acids. So after hydrolysis, no? Pag sinabi kasi natin na hydrolysis, this is the breakdown already. So after hydrolysis, yung fats mismo, they are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay? Always take note on that one na yung absorbable forms ng mga fats natin ay yung mismong fatty acids and glycerols. So they provide essential fatty acids. So ano tong mga fatty acids na to? I will just discuss that one later on. Okay? And then of course, aids in absorption of minerals and vitamins. So ano naman to? Pag sinabi natin na absorption of minerals and vitamins, so we have yung calcium and phosphorus. So they help, etong mga fats natin, they help in the absorption ng calcium and phosphorus as well as yung mga fat-soluble vitamins natin such as yung mga vitamin ADEK. Okay, yung mga vitamins A, D, E, and K. So, etong mga vitamins na to, they are absorbed in the blood in the presence of fats. Okay? Then number 4, these are essential component or constituent in the body. So, essential component, etong fat mismo doon sa milk as well as essential constituent ng body protoplasm. So, example nito is we have yung mga phospholipids. Ano tong mga phospholipids? These are phosphate groups plus lipids. So, they are essential constituent ng mismong cell wall. Okay? And they usually play an important role in cell nutrition. I will try to show it to you later on from the classifications of lipids kung ano yung mismong phospholipids. Okay? And then number 5, temperature regulation and insulation. So they help in temperature regulation and insulation for the vital organs natin. And of course, since dito, usually uh, by providing temperature regulation sa mga vital organs, they protect them from any shocks. Okay? And lubricant. So papaano to? So it is required for the lubrication ng mga joints. And precursors kasi yung mga polyunsaturated fatty acids natin, or we call that one as the PUFA, PUFA. So unsaturated fatty acids, particularly the arachidonic acid, they are the precursors of highly active prostaglandin. So before na maging active or before na ma-perform ng prostaglandin, yung mismong function niya doon sa animal's body, it needs to have a precursor, and that is yung arachidonic acid. So they are precursors etong mga fats natin. Okay, so what are fatty acids? So fatty acids, these are the main players doon sa lipid nutrition. Okay? It is because they are main players sa lipid nutrition. It's because due to their diversity when it comes to structure, diversity in when it comes to composition, and third one, diversity when it comes to metabolizability. So they are long chain na organic acids having 4 to 24, pero in other books, they call it also as 4 to 30. So pwedeng 4 to 24 na carbon atoms, and then in other books, they are also using 4 to 30 na carbon atoms and a single na carboxyl group. So, ang molecular composition ng fatty acids natin include yung hydrophilic carboxyl group tsaka yung hydrophobic methyl group. So, pag sinabi natin na hydrophilic, I will try to show it to you later on kung ano yung mismong component na usually ang hydrophilic yung mismong head, no? Yung mismong head ng mismong layer ng isang fatty acid. And yung mismong tail naman, yun yung hydrophobic. So hydrophilic, so they are water-loving. And then yung hydrophobic, so of course, they are not into water. Okay? Ganun lang yung composition niya. That is why merong opposite na terminals dito sa hydrocarbon na backbone. So merong, this is for the hydrophilic, yung end yung start portion niya, tapos yung hydrophobic, that is yung CH3. Okay? Now, in most cases, there are 3 fatty acids that are usually attached to the glycerol molecule. Okay? And they are called as the triacyl glycerol. So, etong mga tatlo daw na fatty acids that are attached sa isang glycerol backbone, it is being called as the triacyl glycerol. So, etong mga tatlong fatty acids na to in the triacyl glycerol can differ in chain length or yung total carbons in the fatty acid molecule as well as in the number of double bonds. So there is a schematic, no? Ito, schematic representation ng isang triacyl glycerol structure with 3 fatty acids on a glycerol backbone. So ang mga fatty acids natin that are most frequently occurring sa mga fats natin. So ano tong mga to? Yung fatty acid 1, 2, and 3, we have yung palmitic, we have yung stearic, and then we have yung oleic acid. Okay? So, etong fatty acid composition na to, no? Etong fatty acid composition and yung structure, usually ito yung nagde-determine yung physical property and nutritional quality ng mga mismong fats. For example, when there is a predominance ng saturated fats doon sa triacyl glycerol, yung mga fats usually nagsosolidify sila. So ano yung good example for that one? Yung mga saturated fats natin or yung predominance ng saturated fats. We have yung fats na nakikita natin around doon sa isang karne. Okay? Those are saturated fats. Then if there is a predominance naman ng unsaturated fats natin, ang nangyayari naman sa mga fats, they tend to liquefy. So ang good example that one is yung mga ginagamit natin na oil, yung mga salad oil na tinatawag natin. Pero take note of this that an increase in saturation, okay, makes yung mga fats na magiging more solid. That is why nagiging solid. Kung titignan ninyo yung mga fats ng baka tsaka fats ng baboy, if nilagay mo sa isang cold na temperature, ano yung mangyayari? Bubuo sila. Okay? That is because it is being saturated. No? Kasi lang kumbaga, maglalagay ka ng karne or ng yung fat mismo galing sa baboy tsaka baka, tapos ilagay mo sa ref, ang mangyayari yan, bubuo. Pero if you try to compare yung mismong salad oil, ilagay mo sa ref, hindi pa rin yan bubuo. It's because mas madali na ma-breakdown yung mga unsaturated na fatty acids. Okay? So, an increase doon sa unsaturation makes yung fats na more liquid naman or it decreases their melting point. So that is the difference between yung saturated tsaka yung unsaturated. Although I will try to discuss that one further later on. Okay, so ito is a one example of classification of lipids. So they are usually classified siguro. Kung titignan natin kasi simple, compound, tsaka derived, they are classified based on complexity. Okay, so for simple lipids, so we have the fats and oils and then yung mga waxes natin. Ano tong mga waxes? Ito yung mga mismong ginagamit natin, kumbaga sa mga plants natin. Ito yung usual na ginagamit na parang covering ng mismong plants. Kumbaga sa mga talong, ito yung nilalagay para hindi mabilis na mag-deteriorate. Or ito din yung mga fat mismo na nandoon sa mga feathers ng mga poultry. Okay? Ito yung mga waxes natin. Now, for the compound lipids, we have yung phospholipids. So until for the phospholipids, so we have etong dalawa, tapos yung glycolipids meron ding dalawa. Pero ang titignan lang natin dito kasi medyo complex na to, etong mga apat na to. So dito lang sa tatlo. So mga compound lipids, for first one we have the phospholipids. Ito naman, kaya nga compound kasi dalawa. Usually dalawa yung component nito. Ang phospholipids, this is yung mga phosphate group tsaka lipids. So, abundant tong mga to doon sa mga organs ng animals, just like for example, yung heart, yung kidney, and even yung mga nervous tissues. Okay? And then glycolipids, of course, that is carbohydrates and lipids. So, etong glycolipids, eto yung main na lipid na component ng mga forages natin. Etong glycolipids. Kasi of course, as what I have said noon, ang mga forages, they are basic source of carbohydrates. Pero hindi lang naman carbohydrates yung meron sa kanila, but then meron din silang lipids. And yung lipid component ng mga forages natin, they are being called as glycolipids. And then for the lipoproteins, ito naman is combination siya ng, of course, proteins tsaka lipids. So, ang ginagawa dito ng mga lipoproteins, usually meron silang basic role doon sa pag-transport ng lipids via the blood from the small intestine to the tissues. Ito yung mismong gumagawa nito. We have the lipoproteins. Then we have the derived lipids. Merong tatlo. We have the steroids, we have the terpenes, we have the carotenoids. So etong steroids na to, they are large group of physiologically important na compounds doon sa mga plants and animals. So ang pinaka-abundant na steroids, just take it down. I have not included here. So we have sterols. So tanggalin nyo lang yung IDS dito sa steroids, palitan nyo ng LS. So sterols. Okay? So, ito yung mga steroid na alcohols. And one good example ng isang steroids or isang example ng sterols ay cholesterol. Okay? Ito yung pinaka most important animal sterol. Of course, that is a component ng isang cell membrane. Okay? So those are for steroids. Then we have the terpenes. Ang terpenes naman, plant component din siya na merong characteristic odor and flavor. So etong mga terpenes na to, they are the substances that usually yield isoprene upon degradation. So isoprene, that is ISOPRENE, isoprene. Okay? ISOPRENE, isoprene. So, etong mga to naman, ang mga terpenes, they only represent medyo konti lang, super konti lang na portion ng ether extract ng mga forages natin when it comes to proximate analysis. And etong mga to, they do not usually provide energy sa mga animals natin. And then of course, the last one we have the carotenoids. And then dito naman, for this one, na-divide din to, we have the fatty acids. For the derived lipids, so we have the saturated tsaka unsaturated. And then for the unsaturated, we have the monounsaturated tsaka yung polyunsaturated fatty acids. So I will try to discuss dito etong portion na to. Dito tayo magfo-focus. Okay. There are classifications of lipids as what I have said kanina. So they are being classified into 3 families based on the presence or based from the absence of double bonds in their hydrocarbon chain. So that is why I have made it as based on the number of carbon atoms and the degree of unsaturation. So for this one, we have the saturated fatty acids. We have the monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids, or commonly known as the PAFA. Okay? Now, ano ang saturated fatty acids? So, sinabi natin sila or pinangalanan natin sila as saturated fatty acids, it's because they are saturated with hydrogen na atoms. Okay? So, with hydrogen na atoms or straight chain with no double bonds na skeleton. Okay? And one good example for that one is yung palmitic acid. So kung titingnan ninyo, that is why saturated siya kasi complete yung hydrogen atoms dito. Oh. Kung titingnan ninyo, complete yung hydrogen atoms. And I will try to look at it later on. I will try to show it to you later on yung mismong difference nito when it comes sa mga unsaturated fatty acids natin. Okay? Now, when there is a predominance ng saturated fatty acids no, dito sa glycerol backbone, as what I've said kanina, anong mangyayari doon sa triacylglycerol pag merong predominance ng mga saturated fats dito sa glycerol backbone? Ang mangyayari, they tend to be solid. And then of course, for the unsaturated one, they tend to be liquid. So, ang main reason din kung bakit straight chain, no? Kung bakit straight chain yung nature ng saturated fatty acids is they tend to pack very tightly doon sa membrane. Okay? Kaya kung titignan niyo, as what I have made as an example, yung tallow or yung lard. Ang tallow, that is a beef fat, and then yung lard, that is a pork fat. Kung titignan ninyo, bubuo sila pag nilagay mo sa isang cold temperature is because it's because they tend to pack very tightly doon sa membrane. Yun yung nangyayari. That is why they are being called as saturated one. Now, unsaturated fatty acids, they can contain one or more na double bonds between sa mga adjacent na carbon atoms in the hydrocarbon chain. So, yung mga unsaturated fatty acids natin, they can be either mono, okay, meaning one or more na double bond. So, pero since mono siya, so one double bond lang siya. And then yung polyunsaturated fatty acids, we have more than two or more na double bonds na to. So, as what I've said kanina, if there is a predominance ng unsaturated fats, then the triacyl group will tend to uh, be liquid because of the unsaturation na nagbibigay ng bend. Kung titignan niyo, nagbibigay siya ng bend in the structure and they cannot pack as tightly as saturated fats. Okay? And that is why mas maganda ang unsaturated fatty acids. Mas healthy sila. Bakit? It is easier yung breakdown. Okay? Kasi kung titignan niyo, if we compare kanina, no, if we compare dito sa saturated fatty acids, kompleto yung hydrogen atoms. Pero kung titignan na ninyo dito, meron nang nawawala. Kasi nga, they cannot pack as tightly as yung mga saturated fats natin. Okay? Kaya, mas better, okay, mas maganda etong mga unsaturated fatty acids natin when we compare sa mga saturated one. And one good example for that one ay yung mga oils natin, yung mga vegetable oils natin, yung mga salad oils natin, okay, yung mga olive oils. So yun yung mga good example for these unsaturated fatty acids. Okay? Kasi wala silang hydrogen atoms lahat. Now, meron din tayong tinatawag na polyunsaturated fatty acids or yung dalawa or more na double bonds. Okay. So, we call them that one para mas madali yung pag-memorize ninyo. We call this one yung polyunsaturated fatty acids as PUFA or PUFA. And of course, they do contain na maraming double bonds. So, it's because of this one, okay? Because of these double bonds, etong mga extra na double bonds, yun yung main reason kung bakit etong mga PAFA, they tend to be more round when we compare it doon sa straight chain ng structure ng saturated fatty acids. Kasi kung titignan ninyo kanina, if we compare it, straight siya. Pero kung titignan ninyo na dito, nagiging round na siya. It's because of the extra na double bonds. So etong mga double bonds na to, they also change the physical nature ng fat mismo, making it more liquid than yung straight chain na saturated fat. Okay, so we have two types ng polyunsaturated fatty acids. We have yung omega-6 fatty acid tsaka yung omega-3 fatty acid. So, usually yung mga nutritionists natin, yung mga animal nutritionists natin, dinedenote nila yung term na omega as etong parang W na to. Or pwede din na N. Okay? Parang to denote yung position ng double bonds in the carbon chain doon sa PAFA. Okay? So, usually, kung titingnan ninyo, letter A that is for the omega-6 and then yung letter B that is yung mismong omega-3. Okay. So, kung titingnan ninyo dito, etong letter A that is yung omega-3 tapos yung letter B that is yung omega-6 kasi kung titingnan niyo 1, 2, 3 and then eto is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pero hindi kasi kompleto to. Okay, ang nangyayari dito yung omega-3 they will have the first double bond at the third carbon when counted from the methyl end. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So that is yung mismong 3. Okay, so that is they have the first double bond at the third carbon. And then eto naman is at the 6th carbon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So dito siya. Kaya doon din nang kinuha itong omega-6 na to. Okay? So they have their first double bond at the 6th carbon when counted from the methyl end. Okay? So yun yung difference ng omega-6 tsaka yung omega-3 na fatty acids. Ito yung mismong comparison ng isang saturated mismo from the monounsaturated. So ito na yung mismong unsaturated fatty acids natin. And then we have the polyunsaturated fatty acids. So we have here naman yung mga different fatty acids natin with their number of carbon atoms, yung mismong type ng fatty acids, and then yung essential fatty acid, and yung common sources ng mga to. Okay? So sinasabi dito, although dito, essential fatty acid, if that is yes or no. Pero kung titingnan ninyo dito, meron din ito. Pero usually hindi na to very common, no? Ito lang tatlo yung usual na common na essential fatty acids. Okay? Pero dito naman, I have just only included kasi yung mismong binigay ko sa inyo, yung sinabi ko sa inyo noon, tatlo. We have the linoleic, we have the linolenic, we have the arachidonic. Pero since kung titingnan natin kasi doon sa mga farm animals, since we are only studying farm animals, usually sa mga non-ruminants or yung mga monogastric natin, most specifically sa mga pigs, no? Ang linolenic tsaka linoleic, sila lang yung dapat na kailangan na isupply sa diet. Okay? And yung arachidonic, essential siya, pero doon lang sa mga pet animals natin na kailangan doon sa diet. Kaya like for example, yung mga dogs, yung mga cats, yung mga carnivores natin, yun yung binibigyan natin ng arachidonic as essential fatty acids. Pero if yung question no later on is ano yung essential fatty acids or enumerate the essential fatty acids of the farm animals, then ang ilalagay ninyo lang is dalawa. We have the linoleic tsaka yung linolenic. Ang arachidonic, that is only for carnivores tsaka yung mga pet animals natin. Okay, so these are some of the sources of linoleic acid. And then, ito naman yung mga fatty acid na requirements when it comes sa mga birds and then yung mga, or yung poultry tsaka yung swine. And then for ruminant, there is no detailed information and metabolism of linolenic acid in ruminants, and such research could prove to be fruitful. Pero merong mga factors that usually influence the essential fatty acid deficiency. So we have yung age and carryover effects, and then yung sex tsaka yung humidity and water balance related to dermal conditions. So eto lang is not necessary naman na i-memorize nyo to kasi hindi ko naman to ilalagay sa exam ninyo, but just for you to be added para lang merong additional na information sa inyo. Okay? And then we have here the chemical structure and classification. So I have already discussed this one kanina. So just have some notes on it na lang, yung chemical structure. And then we have the chemical properties of fat. So papaano na-breakdown yung fat mismo? Ang tawag sa pag-breakdown nito is what we call as the hydrolysis. Pero yung mismong hydrolysis, that is being known as saponification. Okay? Ang hydrolysis, this is yung the fats may be readily decomposed into glycerol and salt of the constituent fatty acid or yung soap by boiling with strong bases such as sodium or potassium hydroxide. So, etong mga fats na to, they are hydrolyzed to become glycerol and fatty acids by the aid, of course, ng take note of this, we have the enzymes which are the lipase. Okay. And by the alkali in the presence of water. So etong hydrolysis mismo, etong process ng hydrolysis, we call that one as saponification. Okay? So we have here an example. So kumbaga it's styrene plus potassium hydroxide that will have an output of potassium stearate that is for the soap plus yung glycerol. Ang saponification number, these are the milligrams of potassium hydroxide required to saponify or to hydrolyze 1 gram of fat. So ano yung mismong or ano yung indication ng saponification number? Ang saponification number ng fat, ini-indicate niya yung average na molecular size ng mismong fatty acids. Okay? And then, ito yung mga sources din and yung composition ng mga fatty acids natin for your additional information lang. And last one, we have yung hydrolytic versus oxidative rancidity. Okay? So, yung kapag yung mga unsaturated fats natin or yung butter are being stored, they become rancid. Okay? And one of that one is yung hydrolytic rancidity. Pag sinabi natin na hydrolytic rancidity, usually this is being caused by microorganisms. Okay? Caused by microorganisms doon sa fat in which yung mga short chain na fatty acids natin, they are being hydrolyzed. But take note that the nutritive value ng fat during hydrolytic rancidity remains the same. Same pa din yung nutritive content niya. Ang oxidative rancidity naman, pag sinabi natin na oxidative, nade-develop yung fat by auto-oxidation. Okay? So ang oxidative, this is more common sa mga unsaturated na fatty acids. So due to oxidation, yung mga hydroperoxides, they are broken down to aldehyde and ketone, which causes now yung offensive na taste tsaka smell. Okay? So yun yung nangyayari between oxidative tsaka hydrolytic. So eto siya, kung titingnan ninyo, eto lang, pinapakita ko lang yung mga basic unit tsaka yung molecules. Eto siya, yung sinasabi ko kanina na isang mismong layer. So eto, yung head nito, this is yung hydrophilic and then yung hydrophobic yung mismong tawag nito, yung tail mismo. Okay, so this now ends my presentation about fats. For the second part of my discussion, I will be discussing naman yung fat digestion, yung absorption, tsaka yung metabolism. So thank you very much for listening.